Hi. Hello.
Hey.
We brought you some beautiful organic apples. Yeah.
Organic apples.
Mm-hmm.
But they're so stupidly expensive. Why would you spend that much on apples with like grass and dirt on
They
them?
don't have dirt and grass on them, and they're pesticide-free and insecticide-free.
Yeah, and they're GE-free. Look, we got a sticker.
All right, GE-free. Did you know it can actually help people in third world countries?
Well, yeah, but we don't know very much about it. Oh, great, so let's go and take crops we haven't even tested properly over to third world countries because they don't already have enough to worry about.
GE sucks, all right?
Well, how much do you actually know about it? You can't just diss it when you don't know anything about it.
I know enough to
We
know
do
that I
know
don't
stuff
want this
about
in
it.
my
We
body,
know
all
that,
right? And
like, we
I wish I
went out
genetically engineered you two with an off switch. I gotta go.
I second that.
I'll get to the bottom of this. Barnaby!
One day, and a plane ride later, in an undisclosed GE greenhouse.
We've been having an argument about genetic engineering, and we're just wondering, what's the point?
Genetic engineering is just a modern technology that allows us to transfer genes into other organisms such as plants.
We've been using the food that's around now for millions of years.
Well,
Why-
actually, we haven't been around for millions of years.
We've been using the food we've had for thousands of years. Why do we need to change it now?
Well, you've got to remember that plant breeders have been changing our crop plants for many, many decades, and it goes right back to the dawn of agriculture 10,000 years ago. And our modern day crop plants look quite different to the plants that they've evolved from. And plant breeding has never stopped. Plant breeders are always constantly trying to improve the mix of genetic characters in our crop plants. For example, pests and diseases are always evolving. They're always establishing new races, so there's always a need to constantly try and improve pest and disease resistance. As we understand more about human nutrition, we learn that different chemicals are more important to us. So it's a matter then of trying to improve the levels of those in our crop plants or take other ones out. So the need for plant breeding is never going to go away.
Why are people so afraid of it and scared of it and against it?
I think the general public have a fear of the unknown and a lot of fear of the new technologies. One of the major issues with the GM debate is the fact that we can now take genes from any source of DNA. We can engineer our plants now with genes of the same plant or other plants, bacteria, fungi, animals, even human genes. We can now put them into plants.
Isn't it a bit dangerous to move genes from one thing to another?
I don't see there being any great physical risk to the environment or our food safety about where the DNA comes from, other than that ethical issue. That's not to say that we can't create something that might be harmful, and that's why the regulations are so important. But you just have to remember that we can engineer plants by just using the DNA of the same plant. It's not necessarily about putting foreign DNA into plants anymore.
So you're sort of putting potatoes on potatoes.
So we're not going to get any zombie potatoes running around or anything.
Hi, Paula.
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
Hi, what are you doing?
I'm just gonna go to the movies. Do you want to come with me?
Yes, I want to come so much, but
Cool.
I can't. Sometimes I wish I had a clone to do everything. Hi, what would you like me to do for you? Well, I'm gonna go to the movie with Polder, so do you want to go home and take the washing up the line? Or yes.
Problem solved.
Hi, Chelsea. Is there anything you'd like me to do for you? Some homework or something like that? Great. Well, I'll just nip home and do that. See ya.
Chelsea.
What? Sorry, I was daydreaming about clones.
But do you think if you did have a clone that they'd be exactly the same as you?
I don't know.
Well, this is our plant culture room where all our cell cultures and in vitro cultures of plants are all growing away on nutrient media in little wee sterile bottles.
Are these GM?
Yes, in actual fact, these are GM plants, and they have come out of single plant cells of potatoes.
So what is this particular batch of potatoes?
These particular potatoes have been developed with resistance to potato tuber moth. It's for insect resistance against the major insect pest here in New Zealand of potatoes, and it's also a problem in many other countries around the world.
Insects are so important to the environment and to how all ecosystems work, and if we're making insect-proof plants, isn't that whole ecosystem just going to crash?
Well, you've got to recognise there are insects that are beneficial such as the honeybees and the lacewings and the ladybirds that eat aphids. But there's also a lot of insects that are very damaging to our farmers' crops. The conventional approach to control those insects is to spray insecticides on our crop plants. And that's going to possibly kill not only the target insects that are causing problems on the farms, but also many of the beneficials.
So in a way we're saving insects.
It's a balance, and I see this technology as being more environmental friendly to the insect ecology of the fields. My motivations are very much the same as organic farmers, and I certainly believe that this technology could offer huge benefit to organic farming throughout the world if only organic farmers could adopt this technology.
So really you're just a hairy leg hippie too.
I went through my youth as well, yes.
We're going to meet Anne-Marie. She does the lab work for Tony.
At the moment we're working on genes that are involved in changing the colour of potatoes. So here's some purple potatoes. I'm taking DNA from these potatoes and we're going to introduce them into more conventional cultivars, which are potato plants with much bigger potatoes.
So why would we even want purple potatoes?
Well, purple pigments are known to be good for you, just like other coloured things like raspberries and tomatoes. Potatoes are cheap, much easier to grow yourself.
What are you doing at the moment?
Well, I've taken some genes from potato, isolated the DNA and taken genes from that. And what we do is we introduce them into bacteria. So most of the work I do involves bacteria, not plants. Because bacteria replicate very quickly and they make perfect copies of themselves. So one bacteria divides into 2, and those 2 will divide into 4, and those 4 will divide into 8. So that's what I did last night, grew up some bacterial cultures, and now I want to isolate the DNA from those bacterial cultures to show that that plant gene's there.
So how do you do that? Yeah.
So these are my bacterial cells.
And they prefer to shake around a bit?
Yeah, that stimulates them to divide.
The bacteria are in little tubes with a membrane that lets air in so they can breathe, but it keeps all the other bacteria out.
Then she removes all the cells and adds a solution that breaks them up and allows the DNA to escape.
Cool, so this is a vortex that vibrates the solution through the bacterial cells to help break them up too.
It looks really crazy. Do you want to try? Push it down.
So to test that she's growing the correct plant DNA, Anne-Marie separates it out from all the other stuff in the solution, like the proteins in the cell walls.
Right? Yeah, I'm impressed.
DNA is negatively charged, so if you run an electric current through it, it will be attracted towards the positive side of the current. You know, opposites attract.
The upper band is bacterial DNA and the lower band of smaller DNA. This is my plant DNA. So I'm now happy that those bacteria are carrying some plant DNA.
It looks so cool.
So that's a good result.
Got to be a bit of a perfectionist.
You have to be a total perfectionist. Yeah.
What are you downloading, Chels?
Oh, I'm not downloading anything. I'm researching cloning.
Really?
Yeah, and I found out they've never cloned a human before, ever.
Yeah, but how is that any different from cloning an animal, like when they cloned Dolly the sheep?
But they cloned Dolly from like an embryo, so if they were to clone like me, it would be 18 years younger than me.
So when your clone's 18, you'll be like really old.
Yeah, I'll be like 36, and also they have a really low success rate with clones.
And would they think like you?
I don't know, like, cause if they were so much younger and they had a different upbringing, grew up around different things, maybe.
I mean, they may not even necessarily be smart enough to do your homework if you like, do my homework, Chelsea, too.
Yeah, exactly, they might fail. Anyway, you've been having a fruit party, are you gonna clean it up?
Fruit party. No, that's right, I'll just get Polder to do it. Hey, Polder! You called?
Well, this is the greenhouse where we keep our GM potatoes. So all these potato plants in this room are all engineered, and it's part of an experiment trying to understand what controls the pigmentation within the tubers.
If you do get as far as taste testing and it's all approved by everyone that it needs to be approved by, what if you get that far and they taste horrible?
It can be. You can produce some very good looking lines, but they just don't work out, don't taste well. And that can be a range of causes. It might be the gene you've put in. I mean, that would be the worst case scenario. It might just be some other factor that's happened as part of the gene transfer event.
You guys are changing the world of our agriculture completely.
We've got to be very sensitive to what society thinks about this technology, because now that we can actually transfer genes without any foreign DNA being inserted into plants, how far does society believe we should actually now push the system?
So yeah, I don't really mind anymore. They're really good in New Zealand.
How can you be such a traitor?
Their security measures are so good. They're not even allowed to open windows when it's hot, just in case something escapes.
Plus, they're not mixing species anymore.
So no more frog potatoes.
No, instead they take one gene from one potato and stick it in another potato, and that way you get the best of both potatoes.
I still don't agree with it, eh? But it's good that they're keeping it in the labs, that's good.
Yeah, totally.